Guys, today we're talking about the anti-obvious. I love getting new gear. I have a lot of gear come and go. And I think most of us, when we want a better sound or to improve our sound, the knee-jerk reaction, certainly as we're told about on forums, is always to buy bigger, more expensive, better, different gear. And I'm here to tell you that's not always the way to get better sound. And there are ways you can get better sound without necessarily buying more expensive gear. And here's the kicker. Sometimes you can buy less expensive gear and get better sound than more expensive gear. What do I mean? Stay tuned and I'll explain. Guys, I'm Michael the Greek Audio Geek. Thank you for joining me today. I am Greek. I am passionate about audio and music. Yeah, I got a lot of gear here. I love experimenting with it. But for me, it's about the emotional connection with the music. I'm not a spec chaser. I'm not a measurement chaser. I only care about ultimately, does it put a smile on my face? So if you love the specs and all that stuff, more power to you. That's awesome. That's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about some easy ways to get better sound from tube gear, solid state Class D gear, and especially with these tubes, because I had somebody over yesterday, a very special guest, and I showed him that, for instance, this Philips tube, it's a lie. It's not made by Philips. This Amperex that's claiming it's made in Holland, even though it says it on the tube, it's a lie. It's made in England. And I'm going to talk about how all we did was with this full setup was change one tube, and then I changed a second tube. And it was a completely different system. And he was stunned by it. It was exciting to see him go through what I've uncovered through years of experimenting. Yes, that is how I do this. I don't like, I take that back. I read the stuff on the internet and the forums and the Facebook, and I originally got tired of everybody telling me what I could and couldn't hear and what is and isn't true. Everybody was adamant on either side, so I took a new tack starting several years ago when I started this channel. It was, I'm going to experiment for myself. I'm going to try for myself. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, cool. Guys, if you have a different opinion than me on any of this stuff, I respect that. There is no right or wrong. It's only about what puts a smile on your face. And today, I'm going to talk about several of those ways, especially talking about how I changed the complete sound of my system yesterday for him by only changing this one tube in that and this one tube in this, and how that transformed everything. I jumped ahead to the premise of this whole video, but it's, guys, don't be like I was originally thinking I needed to spend more money in gear. Let me give you an example. I have had extensive experience. I've tried over 24 different types of vibration control products. This is currently a graphite audio. This is with their Ultra board. And when I put it in, I expected, how much of a difference could it make? It made a massive sound difference. These Tobian speakers, these are $40,000 speakers. There is a noticeable sound difference whether or not I have stack audio feet, which are only a couple of $100 under them or not. Here's my point where I'm going with this. The Incedo preamp and the Arisarat Helena DAC. This is their OEM tube. It's current, made in Russia, new production tube. All I did was change this out with one of these other ones. And between that and spending a couple of $100 on vibration control feet, I'm getting better sound than if I just spent more money on gear, thousands more on gear up front, and didn't take the time to tweak it. So whether you're running Class D stuff, whether you're running tube, whether you're running speakers, there are ways that you can dial in. The first and obvious is vibration. And then the second is, do you really spend the time to dial in your speakers to the room and your sitting position? You can't simply put a chair where you want it and the speakers where you want to put them and expect to get good sound. So I've got a whole nother video on that. I'm going to link to it down below. I highly suggest you watch it. It's based off of a book that was written by Jim Smith that really transformed how I was able to get the best sound I've ever gotten out of this room. It's a fascinating read, and I'll link to it down below. No affiliate links or anything. Just if you want it, you can go try it. I think it's money well spent. The second thing I did, which I found interesting, was Right now I'm running I've tried several of these. I've tried AudioQuest, I've tried Puritan, I've tried Shinyata. I now currently have a Signal Projects Poseidon power filter in it. Now, you're going to get these smart aleck people on the forums who are going to say, well, what's wrong with the power in your house? Or the wire in your wall isn't as big. Guys, if people say that, here's what you know about them. They're sheeple. They're repeating what they've been told and never what they've tried. Let me explain. I was once like them. I said, what difference could this make? And then I've tried different ones and different price points over the years. Now, more money doesn't mean better. I've listened to more expensive power filters than that frankly made the sound worse. They deadened it, they made it lifeless, they made some things better, but overall it detracted from the musicality. And that's ultimately what I'm looking for. How musically engaging and emotionally engaging is the system for me? I'm not a spec chaser. I'm not a numbers chaser. I'm an emotional music chaser. I love that Signal Projects. Now, here's the thing that many of these sheeple don't realize. Guys, there's interference everywhere. My phone is emitting interference. Our wireless printers, our Bluetooth from our TV, all that stuff is emitting interference into the air. That works its way through the cables and into this gear. This helps minimize that by rejecting a lot of that and sending the cleanest sound and power possible to the gear. So it's a very simple explanation, and here's what I suggest you. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy one of them, but I will tell you I did a video, and all I did was add over there a $299 power conditioner from AudioQuest that I plugged in my network box to it, and it made a massive sound difference. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to get great results. So that's the first way you could work on solid state gear. The second way you can work on solid state gear and tube gear and speakers. But now what do we do with the tubes? So when he listened to the system yesterday, I think I already mentioned, the first thing I did when I received these Airy Surat is I replaced the factory Russian tube. It's a GZ34. It's a tube rectifier, 5AR4, same thing. A lot of tube stuff has solid state rectification. Some of these have tube rectification. Like this is an Arc Audio. It's a 2A3. It's pushing out just under 3 watts. And it's got tube rectification, okay? Now, the way I was able to completely alter the sound of my entire system for him, I didn't go out and spend thousands more. I think the next step up on this is double the price. Same with the DAC. It's double the price, or there's a big difference. If it's not double, it's 50% more to go from this to the other one. I was able to change the entire sound of the system and get significantly better sound by simply changing this tube for him and simply changing this one tube right here. Changed the entire system. Didn't have to go out and get new gear or anything. And with a couple of $100 expenditure, we saved thousands and thousands of dollars. So how do we do this? What's the difference? Well, let's first look at the nature of tubes. If somebody says, I don't like RCA, I don't like Sylvania, my response to them is always, now guys, this is a journey. This is what I've learned in my audiophile journey. So I don't expect a lot of people to know this. I didn't know this when I first got started. Through the decades and years, let's take RCA as an example. They changed the tooling, they changed the manufacturing process, they changed where it was made. Those significantly changed the sound. So the sound of this World War II era RCA 6SN7 is very different. It was made in 1944. It's very different than the 1954 version, which is when they were moving into a different version, or the 60s or the 70s version. I am not a fan. I'm mostly a fan of tubes from the 30s and 40s, some 50s, 60s much less so, 70s no way. That's a personal preference because of the flavor. I like the more romantic sound. There are a lot of people, and this is what I mean, you need to try for yourself, who may say, yeah, I love the sound of the 60s RCA. It works in my system. So when you have tubes and you try and listen to them, you need to understand what you're listening to. You're not just listening to an RCA. I'm listening to an RCA that was built in 1944 that is actually a military version, which was built to even tougher specs and sounds different than the civilian version. So I know that this particular tube I like. I recently tried a 1960 RCA there. I didn't like it. So if I just didn't understand the difference, I would say, oh, I don't like RCA. But I do, certain ones. Now let's make it more difficult for you. This says Amprex, made in Holland. It's not. It's a lie. This says Philips. It's not. It's a lie. This says Mullard. I think it says Mullard. Yeah, it says Mullard. It's telling the truth. We need to understand what the differences are. Now, here are the differences. These are all rectifier tubes, okay? To make things more complicated, of the ones from the late 50s and early 60s, there's three versions, an F31, F32, F33, generally speaking. So on this Amprex, what I did is open it up. And let me tell you what you need to do this, okay? There is the smallest, tiniest, it says Amprex made in Holland, the smallest, tiniest of code right there. You can't see it. I can barely see it. There's a couple of ways you can read it. You can use the magnifying glass on your phone. You can spend $12 from Amazon, which is a step up. Or you can spend, I think I spent $50 on this. This is a jeweler's one. And this is by far the best. You look really stupid wearing it. But holy moly, does it make a difference in being able to read, especially the more faded lettering. This is going to tell me two pieces of information right on the back of it. It's going to say F31, F32, F33. So I will know what version it is. It's also going to give me an L or a B or a K or whatever it is. That's going to tell me where it's manufactured. Now, I will say of the rectifiers, my two favorite, equally, slightly different sounds, is the ones made in Mullard at the Blackburn factory and the Amprex ones made in Holland. My two favorite sounds, a little bit different sound. The next step down would be some of the Japanese ones that were made on Mullard tooling and stuff like that are really good for the money, much better than any current production or anything like that. So when I look at this and I take usually that, but I'm not going to put that on for here, and I look at it and I can read it and it says, oh, okay, it gives me the manufacturing code, and this is an F33 that's actually made in England at the Blackburn factory. So this and this are the same in terms of the sound, although this is an F32, so it's a slightly different version. Same with these other ones. This Philips was made, when you look at the code, it's an F32 made in the Blackburn factory. So the F32 is going to sound a little bit different than the F33, but they're both made in the Blackburn factory because it's going to be a very different sound between the Blackburn and ones made elsewhere. So how did I change the entire sound of this system with two tubes for them? The first thing I did is I don't think I still had, yeah, here we go. This is an F31 GZ34. It tested 105%. I had an F31. Now the F31 is the earliest type. It is the most tubey, most romantic sounding, a little bit smoother sounding. I've got an F31 in my DAC because it's digital, and digital needs all the help it can get. But I had tried putting an F31 in the Airy Surratt preamp, and we listened to it. It sounded a little bit too laid back for me. The dynamics were really like on Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon, when the Count Basie Orchestra kicks in. And I'll link to my playlist down below. Every single song on that playlist is for a very specific reason that tells you something good or bad about your system. I'll be doing a video on that coming up. But it wasn't as dynamic as I knew it could be. And even he was like, okay, yeah, and it sounded a little bit closed in. So I did something, and I didn't tell him what I was doing because I didn't want to influence him. I said, okay, well, don't. So I went in, and all I did was pop out the F31, and I stuck in an F32, Blackburn. Now, you'll hear a lot of people on the internet say, you can't hear a difference between a rectifier. Okay, if you can't hear the difference between a rectifier, it's either because you don't have a system that's very dialed in, or your hearing isn't that good. That's okay. More power to you. You're going to be much more happy if you can't hear the differences. You'll be much more happy with cheap tubes, and you're going to have way more money than the rest of us who actually can hear the difference and chase that sound. But here's what we noticed. I played the exact same song. This is a digital volume on it. I kept it at the exact same volume, everything. I didn't tell him what I did. And we immediately listened to it, and there was a noticeable difference. It sounded more open, more airy, more dynamic, had a little bit faster rhythm and pace to it, which are all differences between the F31 and the F32. And it was a more pleasing sound. So I said to him afterwards, I said, did you notice a difference? He's like, oh yeah. So he articulated all the differences I heard as well. He said, what'd you do? I said, all I did was change a rectifier tube. He said, that's it? Yeah, I said, that's it. $200. If you get a really nice one, the rare ones are like $300. Didn't spend thousands of dollars. I altered the system by spending $200 on a tube. So we were listening to it some more, and I said, I think there's room for more improvement. So what did I do? I took out, this is a 6SL7. I took out we listened to it with the RCA. It was a later 1940s version. Sounds very nice. All I did was I took it out and I put in an Italian, no, that's an RCA. I've got it here somewhere. An Italian that's in there now. Italian Fiverr 6SL7, made from 1949. Same thing, digital volume, didn't show him what I was doing, played the whole, massive sound difference. Now, it's not for me to say whether it's better or worse, it's up to you, but there was a difference where even he was like, oh my gosh, that is such a massive difference. So we completely changed the sound of the system for $400, 200 and 200. Okay, this is actually a pair for 200. And we didn't go out and spend all the money on gear. We didn't have to reposition our speakers. We didn't have to go through any of that stuff. That's what I mean by tweaking and dialing in your system. Now, there's another catch to that, guys. That same F31 that didn't work in there for us is highly dependent on the rest of these tubes. If I were running Raytheons in here rather than vintage 1943 RCAs, that very well may have worked better. It's always about system synergy. It's always about how it works together. If I took this exact same setup that I love right now and put it in another room in this house, it would it would guaranteed sound completely different, and it may sound crappy. So that's what I mean when there's no easy answer. You can't go on the internet and say, recommend me what to buy. You need to understand the differences, get some ideas, and then try for yourself. There are a lot of people that I know prefer the RCA sound or National Union. Oh, I love it when I stick a 1940s black glass National Union there. Completely different sound. And sometimes that's the sound I'm looking for. But you don't need to have the knee-jerk reaction of just going out and spending thousands of dollars on more gear, chasing new gear, when you can get better results by just tweaking. I've got these are 45 monoblocks. Allen Eaton, they put out 1.8 watts, roughly. I just received a pair from 1932 RCA. And these are built very, very different than a 1940s type 45 tube or a later type tube. Different tooling, different manufacturing techniques, different sound. So if somebody's listening to this tube amp and they're listening on a current production or maybe a very bright, newer made Sylvania or something like that, they may hate the way it sounds. All I have to do is change that one tube and it will completely alter it. Especially for you guys with headphones and headphone amps, you'll really notice the difference. It's much easier for you to notice a significant difference in tubes than those of us who are dealing with room acoustics and room issues and things like that. So I know you guys are huge believers in what tubes can do. I read your forums. You guys do great stuff with tubes. So this is a way of telling you, you don't need to have the knee-jerk reaction of buy bigger gear, buy bigger gear, buy bigger gear. That's not always the answer. I'm a big believer in taking what you have, optimizing it. Then, yeah, I may still decide at some point, if I have extra money someday, of going the next step up in the Encedo to the Encedo S. Would I like to? Sure. I don't have the money to do that. So right now I would rather have this lower one with my vintage tube in it than a newer one with a stock tube. Because I'm going to get so much of the better sound for pennies on the dollar. And I'm not putting down more expensive stuff. I'm just saying, spend wisely. Don't always go for the knee-jerk reaction of buying gear like I used to. And have fun on the journey, guys. But that's the journey of exploring and understanding what it does to the tubes. I have tried dozens and dozens and dozens of tubes, and I understand the years and the decades, where they were manufactured, not because I'm smart or I'm better, because I went through the pain in the butt process of learning it, and I could talk for hours about how the different tubes sound. Guys, that's the type of stuff that will help you get your system dialed in And yes, I offer free advice to help you and share my personal taste and experience with you to help you get it dialed in. But that's where you should be focusing. Don't just go rush to spend more money. I love getting new gear as much as the rest of you. And we're going to be doing more in terms of the Class D, the TIAC. We've got more headphone stuff coming up, headphone amps, more tube shootouts. We're going to be comparing Italian. We're going to do a shootout. Italian tubes versus the best of the American tubes, which is arguably RCA that I think most people know about, but there are ones that are just as good. Old Kenrads before GE bought them out, National Union, stuff like really romantic that make Louis Armstrong's trumpet just have bite. And just enjoy the journey. And guys, one last thing, just be nice. Just be nice on the forums, be nice on Facebook. It's okay if people have a different belief in what sounds good or what doesn't, or they like different stuff. You know, we can sit here, we can make fun of people with Bose speakers. Guys, when I was 16, I owned Bose speakers. It got me started. So long as you like the system and you like the sound, that's all that matters. Just put a smile on your face and enjoy the music. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Guys, I'm the Greek Audio Geek, and I approve of this message. Opa!